Hello everyone. Congratulations on attending the Divine Light ceremony today. The economy is slowly reopening worldwide, and I will continue to pray for your health and well-being through these challenging times. These days, Oshienushi-sama is leading a worldwide prayer every day at 8:30 a.m. in Japan. That is 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our united prayer with Oshienushi-sama will help us overcome the coronavirus pandemic and the consequences in the economy, so it is necessary at this time. So please join this daily prayer for overcoming the challenging times brought by COVID-19 and restore health and well-being to people in the world. Your prayer is necessary. Today, I'd like to talk about our fundamental spiritual practice as Kamikumites and how this spiritual practice can help us overcome these difficult times. In the context of God's divine plan, now is the era in which God is making a significant transformation we call the transition to heavenly will. In God's law for the prosperity of the universe, there are spiritual principles enacted by God. One of them is the principle of discernment, and another is the principle of rotation. In Japanese, the word for rotation is Meguri. This time, I'd like to focus on the principle of Meguri. Everything is influenced by the spiritual principle of Meguri or rotation. For example, Meguri in the economy is a business cycle. You can have good times and bad times in your life. That is also a cycle. The cycle of seasons in nature is influenced by the same Meguri principle. Everything is subject to cycle enacted by the principle of Meguri. Now, the way we see the coronavirus pandemic from the perspective of God's divine plan, the Meguri principle and divine teachings is that the coronavirus is marking the arrival of a big change, a new era. God is opening the door to the next stage in human history. Again, one of the major principles enacted by God is the spiritual principle of Meguri, rotation. The power of rotation can affect human history as well. Great transformations have always taken place after a plague in human history. Religious, cultural, and economic revolutions. Oshienushi-sama tells us that the transformation of the world happening at this time is a change to the spiritual principle-oriented civilization. Last year, we prayed for the dawn of the spiritual divine light civilization at the 60th Grand Anniversary Festival. After this ceremony, the kingdom of God will be significantly advanced following God's will. We are experiencing great confusion now. However, Oshienushi-sama strongly instructs us that you will get through this confusion when you follow the basics of our spiritual practice. Remember, we always go back to basics in our spiritual practice, and there are three pillars of truth: receiving truthfulness, giving truthfulness, and dedicating truthfulness. It is essential to keep these three aspects of our spiritual practice in balance. Receiving truthfulness is to receive God's light to re-establish our connection with God and receive His guidance, especially during these challenging and confusing times. We will see God's plan clearly after receiving divine light. Confusion will gradually go away, and God's love, peace, and light will be established in our lives. Giving truthfulness is to provide God's light and to deliver the spiritual principles to others. By giving divine light to other person, we are sharing God's love and we are establishing a relationship based on the truth about us. We are God's light, and light will re-establish our true nature. Dedicating to truthfulness is the service to God and His great plan for humanity. You dedicate your talent, time, material things, and donations to the creation of heaven on earth, the spiritual divine light civilization. World Divine Light Organization has implemented several volunteering activities in which you can put in to practice altruistic love. Heaven on earth starts with you. Remember, these three pillars of truth are the basis of our spiritual practice. U.S.A-CAN created them so that you can grow spiritually in a balanced and harmonious way. If you practice only one or two of them, you will be limiting your spiritual growth. Receiving divine light only can lead to a selfish behavior, for instance. You can be focusing in your own benefit, and that will create negative karma. Any of them practiced without the other two can lead to self-centered behavior. All three have to be practiced in balance. Today, I'd like to emphasize the subject of dedicating to truthfulness. Dedicating to truthfulness means expressing our gratitude and appreciation to God in the form of divine service, offering material things, and making donations. I have been doing my Suza offering every single month since I was a teenager. Even though sometimes it was just little money, I did it with my deepest appreciation for God. My family, and especially my father, taught this with his own actions. I remember there were so many issues in my family during my childhood. However, what we see now is only happiness. A few years ago, I asked my father, "What do you think is the most important thing that brought happiness to our family?" In a second, my father said with confidence, "Well, it's thanks to the Suza offerings." What my father was saying is by offering to Suza, our family had been accumulating virtue in the spiritual world. Being thankful and showing our appreciations to God in the form of offerings to Suza is important spiritual practice. The accumulating virtue is the foundation of your eternal happiness and will result in improving your vibrations and happiness. The spiritual center near you is a sanctuary created for us to train spiritually. U.S.A-CAN is creating spiritual centers in all major cities around the world so that everybody has the opportunity to learn divine teachings and practice divine light. This is a great effort to create heaven on earth, and your Suza offerings forms part of every sanctuary. It shows your gratitude to God. The Suza offerings are used for purchasing, renovating, and maintaining such precious sanctuaries for our spiritual training. It is important that you go often to the sanctuary. Although not all spiritual centers are fully open for divine light at the moment, I still recommend you to visit the dojo to pray and tune to God. The spiritual center is not just a place to exchange divine light. It is a place to pray to God and be in tune with God's vibration after all. It is important to tune your vibrations into gratitude and appreciation, which are God's vibration. When you visit the dojo and pray in front of the divine altar, the power of your prayer can be significantly enhanced. The more you enhance your vibration, the more your life can be uplifted no matter what is going on in the world. We all know the world economy may go into deep recession this summer. That is why we have to reinforce our spiritual practice during this uncertain and challenging time. Your strong spiritual foundation is the best way to get through the severe times we are seeing now. Remember, spirit primary principle means that accumulating virtue in the spirit will change your astral and physical aspects. Every change and improvement takes place in your spiritual aspect first, and then manifest and materialize in the world. Let us continue practicing the 3 pillars of truth: receiving truthfulness, giving truthfulness, dedicating to truthfulness, and show your appreciation and thankfulness to God by doing your Suda offering this month as well. Enjoy your life more and stay tuned to World Divine Light. See you next month.